I mean, the title of the episode is Eggbaby. What do you expect me to say about it? Oh, don't worry, I've got plenty. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the show. So glad to see all of you once again. And if you're new here, thanks for stopping by. I think that you're going to enjoy what you see here as we go back and look at cartoons that we grew up on from the 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s, and talk about them from the perspective of being an adult. And right now we're working our way through a series talking about Batman Beyond, just winding down on the second season. So if this sounds like you might enjoy that, which I know you will, click that subscribe button right now. And I mean it, really. Just click that click that subscribe button. It takes very little effort on your part, but you're going to be filled with a wealth of video content of some guy talking about Batman Beyond. Doesn't get much better than that.
Do they really pay you enough for this?
But stay tuned, because today we're talking about the episode Eggbaby, which originally aired on April 1st, 2000.
You don't know how long I've waited for this.
That's right, this episode aired on April Fool's Day. And boy, do I feel like a fool. I mean, the whole thing was a joke. I mean, you could tell just by the title and the first couple of frames of the show that this was going to be a comedy. And I know many of you have noticed that I'm a little bit more down on some of the comedic episodes, and I'm a comedy guy. I like comedy. I like to laugh. I like a lot of great sitcoms. I like a lot of great animated, silly comedy shows. In fact, I was just watching Animaniacs this morning. But when it comes to Batman, I like a little bit more of a serious tone. But having said all that, you may be surprised that this episode does not rank as low as you may think. So stay tuned till the end to see where I rank this episode in my list of favorite episodes. But before we get to all that, I'm going to give you a 60-second rundown of the episode. Quick synopsis, just so we're on the same page of what happens in this episode. 60 seconds or less, or the Mad Stan bomb is going to blow up. Here we go. Ma Mayhem and her boys are out stealing some rubies. Next day in class, we see that Terry is assigned to take care of an egg with a partner, Blaze, I think it was. And boy, I think these two stories are going to collide. And then Ma Mayhem is out, keeps stealing all these rubies. And Batman's trying to trace where she's going to be next, but he's got to take care of this Eggbaby. And Bruce is going, why are you doing that? And he tries to get Bruce watching. Bruce doesn't want anything to do with that, so he's got to go out and try to stop him. They figure out where she's going to be next and that she's not stealing, because she was the only thing that her and her husband had stolen was these rubies, and they said they were going to keep them. And then Batman puts the egg in the back of her truck and thinks that it's going to be safe, but then they take off, so he's got to go to her apartment, but is able to track them because of the baby crying. And then he finally gets that and stops her from stealing the rubies and captures her, and she loses all the rubies. And then he goes back to school, and the teacher goes, oh, congratulations, you took care of the baby the best because you stimulated it. Boom. I got really too excited there.
Aww.
As I started this episode, I knew it was going to be a comedy, but I tried to get myself in the mindset and try to embrace it and try to accept it and not be expecting something kind of deep and heavy and dark and noirish and mystery and action and all those kinds of things. So I just kind of took a step back and went, okay, let me just embrace the fun of this and try to take it for what it is.
Step aside, oaf.
And truly, the introduction of Ma Mayhem and her sons, Carl and Slim, Slim voiced by Andy Dick, by the way.
You know, other mothers might show a little confidence in their children.
And I feel like that's a theme, you know, the mother and the adult children that would do anything for her is a reoccurring theme in different stories. I think like the Goonies had that, and I think they had an episode of Andy Griffith with something like that. You know, it's just on and on and on. So it was a familiar kind of trope.
Do what Mama says and you won't get hurt.
And I like those characters. They were kind of fun, and I think they had a great dynamic and not a lot to them. You know, here's an introduction of a villain, and They kind of set it up really quickly, and you got it. You got the snapshot of who this was. Didn't need a lot of backstory. They did introduce the backstory of her husband and why she was taking these rubies and stuff, and that was all well and good. I thought that all that worked out just fine. So I was able to kind of embrace that.
Are you arguing with your mother?
You know, there's a reference that Bruce makes about ruby slippers, and Terry doesn't get it.
Before your time.
Which is ironic because Wizard of Oz and Batman both came out in 1939, which is crazy when you think about it, that two very different styles of entertainment that were both introduced the same year, and both of them have maintained this longevity that is now 80 years old, and we're still talking about both those still today, which is crazy. Now granted, I get it. Wizard of Oz was out. The books were out before 1939. I'm talking about the movie and the Ruby Slippers, which is where that came from. Anyway, both came out in the same year. Kind of interesting when you think about it.
Daddy's got to go to work now.
I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyway, but we introduced the story with the egg, which I know is a very cliche thing that they do in a lot of shows and sitcoms where the student has to take care of the egg or the baby or something in their home studies class. And that's a source of a lot of great comedy. I don't think that I ever had to do that in school. I remember taking the class, I can't remember what it was called, but the home studies class. It wasn't home ec, it was family studies, life, something. But I don't remember the assignment of taking care of an egg. I feel like I would remember that.
This week's project will help show you what parenthood is all about.
But it's one of those stories that it works really well for the purpose of sitcoms and stories of that nature, and it certainly works in this episode to try to tell that story. And again, I watched this episode kind of going along for the ride, kind of embracing that this is where that was going to go.
Hi, honey.
And it gives an opportunity to bring Howard back into the episode. And certainly when you talk about comedic episodes, we first saw him in My Friend, Terry's Friend Dates a Robot, which you can see up here, which I wasn't crazy about, I think, because I wasn't prepared for what the story was going to be. And I felt like that one struggled with the tone a little bit. But this one just full on embraced that it was a sitcom. It was a sitcom episode.
I swear, I heard little Howie say Papa.
I mean, the structure of this story, both elements of it, both taking care of a baby and taking down Mom Mayhem, and even Bruce makes a joke about
It was the golden age of alliteration.
was kind of a nice nod to that. And there's a couple of things that I enjoyed about this episode. Is one, it was so ridiculous.
You brought a baby with you?
And I had read that even the writers of this episode, like, really their attempt was to make the most ridiculous, silly premise that they could. This is what they came up with. And I can kind of go along with that. If that's what they were trying to accomplish, they certainly accomplished that.
You think baby could keep its mouth shut for one night?
And with that, they took these two kind of parallel stories and interwove them really well. I think that this story of mother, Ma Mayhem and her boys, and Terry being a father figure to this egg baby, even a Bruce Wayne being kind of a grandfather role in that, all kind of interwove itself really well. It wasn't like, Terry's trying to take down this very serious villain and is going to blow up the city, and it's so dramatic, and he's got to take care of this baby. No, it was kind of a silly premise that he was trying to take down Mom Mayhem, stealing these rubies, which even that is kind of ridiculous. Like, stealing rubies just feels sort of silly in itself.
But Ma, they got all this other stuff.
The other thing that I kind of enjoyed about this episode was it definitely had that sort of 1966 Batman flavor to it. And again, I enjoyed that show for what it is. I know that it's not going to be serious. I know that it's kind of campy. And when I kind of looked at this episode through that same lens, it was enjoyable. It was fun. No, it's not going to be one of the best episodes, but it certainly was an enjoyable episode. And again, the fact that they were trying to do this with that episode and have a little fun with that, it worked for me.
Is that Batman? Dumpster diving?
A fella's gotta eat.
And I also like the role that Bruce kind of plays in this episode, where he's kind of saying the things that we are all thinking as an audience, and the way that he's so calloused about what's important to Terry, what's important to a teenager in school, and taking care of this egg baby and getting a good grade in the class and not failing and all that. And Bruce is sort of just doesn't want anything to do with that and is just focused on, we got to stop Ma Mayhem. And even the way that he kind of embraces that this character is Ma Mayhem.
Ma's very determined, and that makes her and her boys very dangerous.
And yet he takes that very seriously, but not taking seriously the whole element of...
That's a doll you're talking about, not a life.
And the moment when Terry thinks, oh, maybe Bruce, you could watch the baby.
Never mind.
And it just plays with that whole contrast of Terry trying to take care of the city and stop these crimes from happening, but also has real teenager problems. And I think that that's the balance that I was really kind of looking for, is that, yes, the idea of it being a teenage Batman, there's going to be stories like this. And he's going to have teenage problems. And certainly the element of the plot is high school based, but it's not like, oh, all these real heavy problems and struggles are happening at school. It's just that Terry has responsibilities as a teenager, but also has responsibilities of being Batman and taking care of the city. This really kind of strikes that tone and strikes that balance well in this episode.
This is getting old, Batman.
Look who's talking.
You know, I've been hard on this show a little bit in trying to find their identity and trying to find the right tone and sticking with it. But maybe this is what they were trying to do, is trying to kind of toe the line of different elements. And when they tell stories that are what they are, like this one is definitely a lighter toned episode, not heavy, not as serious as trying to stop the city from blowing up or whatever the case is there, and let it be what it is, it works. And this one feeling very much like a kind of lighthearted kind of episode, more in the tone of the 60s Batman, and all the way up until the end where they kind of end on a joke, and it works.
Who knew you turn out to be such ideal father material?
So when it comes time to rank this episode, it is done very well for what it is. And again, this ranking is all about my personal opinion, my personal taste in the episodes, and what I think works and what I don't think works, and the type of episodes that I like. And as far as the animated series, I had to look at this in context, and I think that it works on a lot of levels as far as storytelling and being what it is. But at the end of the day, it doesn't rank at the top of my list simply because there's other episodes that I enjoy watching better in a Batman context or stories. If I want to watch a comedy, I'm going to watch Animaniacs or Tiny Toons or Pinky and the Brain or any number of shows like that, versus if I want to watch action, noir, mystery, thriller, I'm going to turn to Batman. But at the same time, it doesn't fall at the bottom of my list either, because it is a well-executed episode. So for all those reasons, it falls at the number 17 spot of my favorite episodes of Batman Beyond. It falls just below Hidden Agenda, because that episode is a great mystery, a great threat to Batman, and has all those other elements and introduces Max as a strong character into the story really well, and it just enough to beat out this episode. But I do have this one beating out Final Cut, because Final Cut I felt like was trying to be better than it was. I don't like what they did with the League of Assassins in that. I know some of you don't agree with me, but in the sense that they really kind of have mixed messaging as far as, like, are the assassins supposed to be really good? Are Kuari supposed to be the best, or is she the worst because she failed? You know, what is it? So this one was enough to beat that episode out.
Again with the criticism.
So let me know if and when you were in high school, if you had to take care of a baby, or if you're not in high school yet, do you know if you'll be needing to do that, or if you think that you would be able to take care of a egg or a baby or a robot baby thing. Now, I don't know what the technology is now. Do they have an app on your phone that you have to take care of? You can do all kinds of things. But let me know in the comment section below if you had to do that or are looking forward to doing that when you get into high school. Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, please click that like button. If you want to see more episodes like this, just hit the subscribe button. That always helps me out tremendously. And you can even hit the bell notification so that you're notified by YouTube when a new episode comes out. If you enjoy at all what I'm doing here on the channel, it's just a nice way of showing me some support and seeing that number track higher and higher, and it helps me out in so many ways. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button, and for all of you who have been subscribed to my channel for a long time, thank you for doing that as well. Appreciate all of you. So thank you for tuning in, and be sure to stick around for next week's episode, Zeta, which I think you know where that episode's going. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode, and I'll see you soon.